Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your host, PK Cherry, with my main man, Coach Brian Tucker. This is Truth in Sports, Season 2, Episode 2, man. So I'm grateful for everyone that's tuning in, everyone that's going to be listening and watching this podcast. Thank you for all the support, all the love, all the views. It's definitely appreciated and valued. I'm glad to get back with my man, Coach Tucker. I know last week you was busy, couldn't get him on the podcast, but he will be the co-host for the remainder of the season, as much as he's available. So definitely blessed to have him as always, Coach Tucker. Thank you.
No, man, I definitely appreciate it. I'm so excited for season two. We always have some good conversations, so I think we're going to come back a lot more enlightened and provide a lot more insight to different things around the world of basketball and just life in general.
Yeah, no, we're going to definitely get in depth. And for the second part of our podcast today, we're going to have a special guest from New York, Mr. Gene Martinez. He is a basketball coach and trainer out of Brooklyn. Really, really good, close friend of mine. We've done multiple Dominican Republic pro events as well as youth camps. Someone that I consider a brother. We've had a lot of great times together overseas. And he has a lot of great feedback as well. So we're going to split this into kind of two segments. And today, the topic that we're going to talk about is the art of basketball training versus the business of basketball training. It's I've been seeing a lot of talk on social media in the last week or so, along the issues of basketball training and basketball trainers. And unfortunately, the basketball training industry has developed a bad reputation in some circles, especially among college coaches and some pro coaches, because of what we're teaching these kids on the grassroots level, the type of players that's being created, and if people are actually doing it for the art of helping players to get better, or if they're doing it simply just to make money. So that's going to be the topic that we're going to talk about today. I know just for myself, for someone who started off in the game as someone who was a gym rat, who was always in the gym working out, training drills for myself, becoming a trainer and a player development coach. Kind of was like almost a natural evolution, even if I didn't even recognize it at the time. But for me, player development and really breaking down a player and analyzing a player holistically, both their game, their mind, their physical attributes, their athleticism, all those things, and really help them put together a long-term development plan. There's an art to that, right? And it takes a lot of time and study. I remember when I first started training, because I could dribble the ball real good. Most all the drills I did was dribbling drills because I could do all the moves that everybody wanted to see, and that got me a lot of clients because I could do the fancy dribbling drills. And at the very beginning, this is at the start of kind of when the training industry really first started. So a lot of the content that you saw was dribbling stuff. I remember even Gannon Baker, who was the godfather of basketball training. He used to put out the DVDs, and those were called, he like 21 street moves you can use, or 30 35 playground moves used by the pros. And I remember at that time it was dope. Like I remember being in college and he had a John Stockton series, he had a Tracy McGrady, he had a Ray for all. He had he would really break down each player's moves, the AI cross, and he break it down in a way that never was done before. So that was kind of what was popular. But what happened was is that I became popular. I had a lot of clients. I was making a lot of money. But after one season, I realized a lot of the players didn't have the success we thought they would. And the reason why is because all they could do was dribble. And so at that point, I had to really start to learn the art of training and player development and do it from a way that wasn't just focused on what was cute, what was popular, which would be on which would get views on social media, or even what would make my business the most money, but what was the most beneficial way to develop that player to maximize his potential.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're talking about is there is a art to training, there's a art to player development, but when you do it, you literally have to go into it. Well, let me backtrack. it's a thing of the position. Are you doing it to develop kids, or are you doing it for the money?
Yeah.
And I think now we are in position to where, a guy will say, hey, I played, 1 year high school basketball. Now I'm a basketball trainer. No, I train kids. Well, what do you really know?
Right.
And not saying they don't know anything, but does your experience determine that you're going to be an excellent trainer? And are you doing it for the money? Especially now with women's basketball booming the way it is.
Mm.
And I think, man, you mentioned it before that a lot of guys and girls are saying, "Ooh, I train girls, and I run this academy, I do this, and I do that." And it's like, well, are you doing it for the money, or are you doing it for the love of the game?
Right.
And if you're not developing people, like I tell anybody right now, like I'm a basketball coach, but I train kids. I'm not
Yeah.
a trainer first, then a
Right.
basketball.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm a basketball coach, but when a lot of kids that I train now, it's because they want to learn how to shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
And I send them to other people when they say, hey, kind of like what you mentioned about dribbling. Okay, you want to do all the fancy dribbling and you want to do the James Harden stuff and dribble 40 times. I mean, I'm going to send you to somebody else. But when you want to learn the game, the basics, the fundamentals of the game, then okay, I'm going to excel at that and I'm going to take care of business on that end. But like you said, there's a art to it. Are you just walking in, a training facility or a gym and just making up stuff as you go, or do you have a plan of action when you get in there? And I think that's where a lot of training aspect right now is just kind of literally dropping the ball, is because people don't have a plan anymore. There you go.
There you go. I'm listening. Yeah, I think we got all that. Yeah, somebody had called. If you get a call, sometimes it messes up. But no, I like what you said about knowing who you are as a player, right? As a coach. So one of the greatest things that helped me as a player, oh, two things that really helped me as a player development coach slash trainer was being able to work and approach the game from a coaching standpoint. So when I did a summer a week residency at Gannon Baker's home a couple of years ago in Florida. Melbourne Beach was right on the beach, and I stayed with him, and we got in the gym for about 5 or 6 days, and he really taught me how to train the game based on how a coach would look at the game in terms of like read how to read pick and rolls, how to read pin downs, how to read dribble handoffs, how to attack closeouts, how to basically be able to have continuous offensive actions and triggers, and that really changed the way I train because I realized that once players develop the basis of shooting, dribbling, hitting layups, they had to be able to do those things in certain type of play types if they wanted to be high level players. And and then I had an opportunity to be a assistant coach at the college level and was able to do player development. So I think you have to be able to have both. I was assistant coach at the college level, and I always say the opposite of what you said. I said I'm not a coach, I'm a trainer. And you say I'm a coach, I'm not a trainer. But and that's okay though. You can there's transferable things in both, but
Hmm.
understand that there's still an expectation of a high level expertise either way that you're going with it. And it's not so much about guys saying, well, you had to play at a high level to be able to train. That's not necessarily true. There's been guys that did not play at a high level that's really good trainers. One young man, Coleman Ayers, he has the By Any Means basketball channel. He didn't even play in college, and he barely got off the bench in high school. And he's probably got some of the best training content on the internet. But it's obvious that this young man studies the game. He studies player development. But not only do you have to understand player development, when you're working with youth, you have to understand youth development, right? And I think that's something that is really missed with coaches and trainers in the game. Is you can know basketball, but how do you interact and communicate with kids based on their age, their maturity level, their confidence level? Because those are all the things that really create the player. And when you're really trying to holistically develop a player, a lot of times it goes against the business of training, because you as a GM at Shoot 360, obviously, right? You know that if you had 30 kids in the gym for a class for 1 hour and you charge each kid $20, that's $600 that you guys made at Shoot 360 in that hour. But if you don't have, 5 to 6 coaches for those 30 kids and you just got one coach, then how are those kids really getting better? Now the bottom line of the gym or the basketball program, yeah, hey, we got one coach, we pay him. Let's say we give him, $50 for the hour. We make 600, we make $550 per that hour, and that is the model that we see a lot of these trainers take today because they see it's profitable. And
Yeah, and that,
if yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's why, like, for me, running a facility, like when I do camps, I have one coach per 10 kids.
Yep.
And but then, like you said, when you're, an individual trainer, sometimes, you have the extra overhead and stuff like that, which, is understandable. You got to pay for that stuff. But as you mentioned, like the business of it, you know, the business part of it is understanding business overall, because
Right.
there is a business in basketball, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that training aspect. Like, I love what you do, I love the content that you do, I love the people that you work with, because you have built yourself up to be a respectable trainer, and people know your content, we see you traveling and doing different things. But then I think for me, like as a coach and looking at some trainers, I'm like, what are you thinking? Or I'm looking at certain
Mhm.
trainers and what their background is, and I see their content, kind of like you've mentioned before. If your trainers out there using a bunch of cones, that's probably
Mhm.
not the trainer you want to be with,
Right.
right? Me being 49 years old, and still saying that I'm more basketball coach than trainer. I don't use a lot of cones.
Right.
I actually
Yeah.
don't. I don't use cones. Period. And
Yeah.
I still get out and do a little bit of movement. But you got two bad knees, a bad back,
Right.
and
Right. Right. Right.
bad
Right.
shoulder.
Yeah.
I ain't,
Yeah.
I ain't chasing you all over the court. But it's like understanding. It's kind of like ministry, right?
Hmm.
Meet kids where they are.
Right.
And some trainers, if you can't relate to that 8-year-old, you can't relate to that 10-year-old. Honestly, those are the biggest demographics right now of parents
Uh-huh.
wanting to pay. But
A
if
hundred
you can't
percent.
relate to them, and I got a 10-year-old, and then you're trying to train them like they're 21. Well, it's a big difference there.
Yep.
So if you're a trainer and you're a student of the game, like today, I have a wide range. I think I have four trainings today. Uh,
Okay.
one young lady's 10, one
Yep.
is one is 15. Then I
Yep.
have a high school junior.
Okay.
Then I have that's a boy, and then I have a freshman boy.
Yep.
So I got a wide range of age groups,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the two genders, right?
Right. Yep.
So
Yep.
I got to be able to relate to them. And they do different things.
Hundred
I'm like, oh,
percent.
okay.
Yeah.
I got the high school boy. Boom. All right, this is where we're going. We're gonna be hitting with the pad a lot harder. But
Hmm.
then the 10-year-old girl, okay, I'm not gonna hit her with the pad as hard.
Right. Right.
But now
Right.
I,
Right.
I got to
Yeah.
bump her a little bit. She's
Yeah.
a little bit further, but I mean, so to me,
Yeah.
if you're going to excel as a trainer and be a bona fide trainer, to me, you got to meet the kids where they are.
Yeah.
And I think you do a great job of that, because I've seen you train kids, I've seen you train adults. But you don't say, okay, I'm going to take this 5-year-old, and you know what? They're going to be the next Steph Curry. No,
No.
you meet
No.
you meet them where they are, because they're five.
The 5 years. Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's crazy because you know even the best kid at a younger age, there's a lot of development that needs to go. Like you got to figure out, like, is this kid really is playing because he loves it? Is he playing because mommy and daddy's making him? That is he confident? Is he not confident? And you're right. I mean, those are the age groups that parents are paying, but those are the age groups that I feel like are mostly being used because also, I mean, I see all I see all the posts like you got a third grade elite team, I'm looking for two bigs. And I'm like, bro, there's no possible way that a third grade, I don't care if this is the best third grader in the world, there's nothing elite about him as a basketball player. The best third grade basketball player relatively is still a horrible basketball player. It like as relates to basketball. So why are we trying to, but that's the ages where they manipulate their parents the most.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that again, what the people that are in the know and they start to see this, and people start to say, man, well, I ain't dealing with no trainers anyway. And it affects the industry. And what happens is the top trainers in the industry, the ones that actually that have the resumes that have shown proven results, guys that are bigger than me. Um, like I went when I went to go stay with Gannon Baker. Do you think Gannon Baker has a large local training following? The godfather of basketball training in his own city, I saw him train two kids in a week. Two kids in a week. This is Gannon Baker. You know what I mean? You can't really get no bigger than that. But because what it is that in most communities, there's an overabundance of trainers, and the good ones charge a premium price that a lot of times the parents don't see the value in because there's always a $25 or $50 trainer that's just going to throw your kid in a group of kids or just do some stuff they found off YouTube and make it easier on you. And it kind of goes to the conversation where it talks about youth sports being a multi-billion-dollar industry, and how a lot of it's becoming stuff that only well-off families can afford. But a lot of a reason why it's gotten like that is because at some point, I mean, living in Houston, that was probably the craziest example. I mean, everybody was a trainer. Like the drug dealers, if they want to clean up their money, they would train kids and have an AAU team. Like, everybody was training. I would go on Facebook and somebody else was like, "Hey, start a new training program today. I played JV in high school and this," and what happens is they get nice graphics, they get some nice, content creation, right? Because there's a lot of good basketball training content creators. Um, but and those are the younger ones because that's that generation.
Mm-hmm.
Folks like us from our generation, we're not the great content creators because we grew up in a time where none of that existed. Facebook, and I didn't have MySpace until like 17, 18. I didn't have Facebook until 1920. So all my social ideas and communication tools completely developed in a whole nother system. So it took a lot for me to get to where I'm at with my content. But it's still not good enough compared to many of these other younger guys. But what
Mm-hmm.
the issue is just like any other field, it's usually the older and experienced people that are the best at it. If you look at most of the top coaches that's really doing it, they're all older. Chris Brickley may be one of the youngest ones, but Chris Brickley is only 2 or 3 years younger than me, so he's about to be 40. So like you got to be in your about like mid 30s to 40s, and then the ones that's actually working that have NBA jobs like the Phil Handys and those guys are in 50s, 55s. So what happens is that the younger guys who don't have the experience and the success, they're great at making content. So they're the ones whose content is going out to the masses. So they're almost the one who's dictating by monopolizing what training should be. Because you can look at a lot of these trainers, some young boys, they got 150,000 followers, 500,000 followers, way more followers than me. But I always say, notice that they don't have a blue check. Because what the blue check means, what people don't understand is that getting verified on Instagram is verifying that you are who you say you are. And they actually send you, there's actually stuff you have to fill out on Instagram, and they want you to provide real life evidence that you are and do what is who you are, and you do what you say you do. So I could post a YouTube video of me in the gym with LeBron and send that to them, and it would be rejected. If there was a newspaper article or a TV article or a TV report with me training LeBron, that would be acceptable. Because the idea is that on social media, you can always manipulate the truth and make stuff seem different than what it really is. But usually, when you're doing stuff on the news, real life, that stuff that's all verifiable. So I had to send them newspaper articles and news clips of stuff that I did in basketball to get that. And so that other people that's verified know that if you like, now it's like, I showed you the other day, I can hit up someone like the professor and his people's going to respond because they feel that trust level that I've been verified. Whereas a trainer who may have 500 more thousand followers than me and may be making more money than me, he's not going to be respected that same way. But what it does is it messes up the business, and then it messes up more importantly the relationship between the trainer and the student. Because the trainer is responsible for making sure that the student There we go. Man, my phone won't stop ringing today, man. I should. It's hard to put it on do not disturb because then it kind of messes with the settings for the video. But what do you
uh,
got on that, man? What's your thoughts on that?
for me, kind of the way I look at it, when we're looking at like the business aspect of it, and then when you're talking about the age, the age demographic, like when you're above 40, like for me, I'm all about fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right. And some of the people that you're talking about, like that has 150,000 followers and stuff like that, they do all the flashy stuff. And so
Right.
what
Right.
happens is the kids see the flash and then they tell the parents, I need you to pay for the flash. But they're
Mm-hmm.
not wanting to pay for the fundamentals because the fundamentals is boring. And
Right.
I have some younger guys here that work with me. I tell people if you want flash and you want, like I said, the 20 dribbles and all the flashy stuff, I got guys for that.
Right.
One,
Right.
I just don't do it. Like, but if you want me to fix your shot, you want to learn the fundamentals of basketball, I got you. I'm going to
Yeah.
get you there. And some kids, some parents are like, you know what? I'm old school like you. Yes,
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
learn the fundamentals, and I tell them train with me for 6 weeks. And then you want to go over to Flash? I'll move you over to Flash. I have no problem
Yeah.
with that. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
when you're talking about that, that's the difference. I mean, I think that's the breaking point. That's where, like I said, you got flash and then you got fundamentals, and it's like, which one do you really want? But if you can't
Right.
get the fundamentals, the flash is not going to work. Or you're going to
Agreed.
be all flash, but then you know how to do all the flashy stuff, but you're sitting on the bench because you can't do the fundamentals. You can't shoot the basketball. You can't shoot a free throw. But my God,
Mm-hmm.
you can do 10 dribbles and all the tweens and all this extra stuff. You can do all that and look
Mm-hmm.
good, but nobody's gonna see you because you're sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think train for me personally, if I'm going to send my kid to a trainer, it's like, hey, I want you to, do the fundamentals. You can implement some of this other stuff, but if I'm giving you 30 minutes to train my kid, give me 20 minutes of fundamentals, give me 10 minutes of the new age stuff,
Yeah.
and try to mix it in. But that's where I know a guy, good trainer, but he can't break it down to a non, let's say, non-competitive player. If
Mm.
they're a
Yeah.
high level competitive player, he got you. But if you're less than a competitive player, and I don't know if it's just the learning experience
Mm.
or just not being able to fine tune your training to that type
Yeah.
of person. You
Yeah.
know, I'd rather take the kids that are not elite players. If
Yeah.
if I'm going to work with you, I'd rather, because guess what? I don't have to deal with the headache. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
because now if you're a so-called elite player, guess what? You feel that way. Mom and dad feels that way. Now you're going to bring me a list of things that you want me to work on. Well, you know what? I ain't got
Mm.
time. Let me look at it. Let me filter it out. I've been around the game long enough. I've been around the game for 30 years. I've coached on the
Yeah.
collegiate level, the high school level, the minor league level. I know a little something about the game, but then now I got a dad who played, 2 years of high school basketball, wants to come in and tell me how I
Yeah.
should coach their kid. And it's like, hold on, like, what's your background? Like,
Right. Yeah.
do I have to pull out my resume? Do I have to show you my degrees? Like,
Right.
I know what I'm doing, but
Right.
this is what I
100%.
see, and this is what we're going to work on.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think overall, just for me, the training industry can be good, but like you mentioned it earlier, it's getting like kids going to school, getting a, let's just say, I don't know what's the top degrees out there now. Oh, I don't know. It's like different degrees that people. Let's just say psychology. Everybody's getting
Yeah.
a 4 year psychology degree, right?
Yeah.
So it's becoming such a flooded field that people don't excuse me, they don't know where to go. And but
No.
everybody's a trainer. They play middle school basketball. Hey, I'm a trainer. I can do this. And you made a good point though about the one kid. He didn't play high level, but now he's probably one of the best, young trainers that's out there. And I give him props for that. But how many of them actually are going to be students of the game?
Right.
You know,
Right.
the same thing as a coach. As a coach, am I a student of the game? Am I studying the game? And I think right now, some of these trainers are just taking advantage
Hmm.
of people who are wanting their kids to get better. And
Yeah.
so now, and most of the parents, like I talk to parents every day, and they come in and be like, I have no clue about, basketball. I was a baseball player. I was a hockey player. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
whatever you need. On one end, I appreciate that because they're not going to bother me. They're not going to interfere with
Right.
what I'm
Right.
doing. And
Right.
those kids that actually, the parents that are like that, guarantee within 2 months they come back and say, "Man, so and so." Like I have one kid. He came to me in October. Kid was all over the place.
Mm.
In January, late January, he was the MVP of his tournament
Wow.
because he
Wow.
worked out with me, you
Wow.
know.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
like, but the dad comes in, he sits down, he doesn't bother me, he doesn't say, hey, can you do this, can you do that? He let me work with his son, gave me free reign to work with him, and then finally, even his coach was like, who is he training with? He's like,
Hmm.
I want my son to train with Bryant now
See.
because this guy, he's an MVP, and he's like last year, oh my God, like the kid wasn't good at all,
Right.
and now
Right.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden, and it's like I think so. Parents, I like the parents that just kind of let go.
Hmm.
Um, but then also, I think my experience and my resume also speaks for itself too.
Right.
Same
Right.
thing with
100%.
you. I'm going to tell people, hey, this is his resume. This is what he does. This is what you check out. I mean, this is what you need to look at when you're looking for a trainer. So it's an industry that's out there that's flooded. I still think people need some type of resume behind them to actually be verified, kind of like what you're saying
Yeah.
with the blue check.
Yeah.
But if I'm just looking for a trainer, like people ask me now, like, hey, do you recommend like this team or do you recommend, going to this place? I have no opinion,
Mm.
go try it
Yeah.
out. Because I don't want people to say, well, you told me to go here. No, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not from here
Right.
anyway.
Right. Right.
So
Right. You don't know enough. Yeah.
I don't know enough, and I'm not going to tell you to go somewhere and then you hate it, So,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of my thoughts and opinion on it.
No, 100%. I think no, you touched on it. I think, you know, I've experienced the situation with parents, and for the most part I've had a lot of great parents that, were able to look at your resume and understand that what you're able to give to their kid is going to be something they can't get somewhere else. And that's even with, some of the elite parents. I think elite players gravitate to elite trainers. And even, most of the time, those players that usually are the best, even if their parents didn't play basketball specifically, they kind of have a better handle on what is what. But a lot of times, like you said, if a parent didn't play basketball, it's hard for them to decipher what's real and what's not. And if you put a lot of glitz on it and it looks cute on the TV, on your phone screen and all that, it's easy for parents and kids to get deceived. But I think what's happening now is that we're moving into a more streamlined basketball world, right? We're talking about basketball, NBA Europe. We're talking about two expansion teams coming. And I remember one of my coaching friends, one of my friends that trained, Isaac Okoro, he told me he spoke to an NBA general manager and about getting hired to work in the NBA as a player development coach. And he said it's like, if we go check out your social media and just a whole bunch of dribbling drills, we won't even consider you for the job. So I think there's something that trainers really have to learn is that, again, it's becoming more and more obvious who's in it for the right reasons and who's not. And and what has happened is that the guys who are in it for the wrong reasons, as prices and then start to rise up, they're going to be kind of xed out.
Hmm.
And because at the highest level, I mean, I know Gannon Baker, he charges like $500 an hour. I know I charge $125 an hour. That's out of the range of a lot of parents. But the reason why we've had to raise prices like that is because it has to be a separator. Because if the guy who only played JV in high school is charging 50 and I played professionally, then how much am I supposed to charge? And if I played professionally and I charge X, Y, and Z, the person who trained LeBron James and Kevin Durant and all those guys, what does he charge? And I think it's been the over emphasis on money in all youth sports that has drove it up. Because again, I think in all youth sports it's become somewhat of a free for all, where there's not a governing body which is verifying coaches and trainers, making sure they get the proper training like they do in Europe and all over. But even Dominican Republic, a third world country, they have a certification process. And if you're coaching, you actually have to walk around and have the badge on. And this is in a third world country. And obviously we live in a more capitalist system, but I think even at the NBA level or the college level, is that they're trying to clean up the product, they're trying to streamline the product, and unfortunately, it's coming to a place where a lot of the average level kids who may be able to in the past get on a Division III program, maybe NAIA program, a lot of those kids are not going to be able to play basketball, because the development system in America has just been so bad that coaches are just going. I mean, coaches they're breaking well-established traditional rules, trying to bring players out of the Euro League, the NBA, the G League. Like, well, if they're willing to violate law and that's what they're saying. They're saying we don't believe in the American kids coming from this AAU and this basketball training system as it is. We don't believe in them so much. Not only will we have to get kids from transfer portals or prep schools or JUCOs at 21, 22, we'll go try to get an NBA player. And that should speak volumes, to youth parents and coaches and trainers about where the game is going. And hopefully these type of conversations, real conversations, will help people be able to make a change and realize it's not just about how much money you can make. It's not about what you can profit off the game, but really what you give the game. That's the most important thing, man. So um, we're gonna jump on. We'll get Coach Martinez. He's gonna be our next guest. We're
Okay.
gonna continue this conversation about the art of coaching and training. Just hear his perspective. He works at a private school, and does training with some at-risk youth. He actually does some training for kids that really can't afford it. So I think that it'll be a great perspective coming up next. So we're gonna take a quick break. Stay tuned. We got Coach Martinez coming up next.